All right, welcome to our first monthly Lake Org chat. As an outreach program of the College of Natural Resources at UW-Stevens Point, the Extension Lakes program's goal is to provide educational resources and support to the broader community in regard to lake health. As you may know, Wisconsin is home to over 15,000 lakes. Over 750 of these lakes have an organization that is driven to protect and manage the health of the lake for current and future generations. We try to get important and timely information out in a variety of ways, and this year, 2025, we'll be recording these monthly Lake Org chats to get this information out to you in a fun and engaging way. We want to make sure that we're hitting this goal, so please let us know how we're doing by completing the feedback survey linked in YouTube. We hope you'll visit us again and watch future episodes. Tentative topics are listed here. Now on to the good stuff. So this is the very first episode, and we will be focusing on organizational capacity for lake groups. We'll cover what we mean when we use the term organizational capacity, why we think it's important, and what organizations can do to increase their capacity to get things done. My name is Sarah Winju, and I'm the Leadership and Capacity Development Specialist for the Extension Lakes program at UW-Stevens Point, and I'll be helping to facilitate these chats each month. Eric?
Yeah, I'm Eric Olson. I'm the Director of Extension Lakes, and I've been working with Sarah for years now, trying to work on organizational capacity development.
Thank you, Eric. I'm the chairperson of the Eagle Spring Lake Management District in Waukesha County. I'm also a member of Lake Leaders Crew number 15, which just completed its training in 2024, and have been a member of the Capacity Committee for a number of years. Over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Pete. Hi, everyone. I'm honored to represent Sand Lake Association and its members. Sand Lake is in Rusk and Chippewa counties. Like Pete, I'm also a proud graduate of the Lake Leaders Institute Crew number 15 and also a member of the Capacity Committee.
Great, thank you, Pete and Dave. I just want to give a shout out to both of you. These two have been helping to guide our capacity work over the last 3 years. We wouldn't have been able to do so much of what we do without their advice and support. So thank you both for all that you do. All right, well, first we want to introduce you to what we mean by the capacity of an organization. First, the definition we have listed here defines collaborative capacity, which is the conditions needed for coalitions to promote effective collaboration and build sustainable community change. Well, as lake groups, we want to be sustainable, which means maintaining our programming, existing into the future, and continuing to do the important work we do. This doesn't just happen. It takes planning and preparing, and it takes many people. Using this model from May Davenport from the Minnesota Center for Changing Landscapes, we focus our capacity work on 4 main components shown here in this pyramid. Membership is the base of the pyramid. This is the foundation of all organizations. Membership may not be actual paying members, if that's what you're thinking of, but just a strong base of supporters that all organizations need in order to move projects forward and support the work that you do. Next, up 1 layer in the pyramid, we have internal functions, which is the way a group interacts and how they function internally. Are they efficient? Do they communicate effectively? And do they all push in the same direction? Next to internal functions, we have external relationships. These are crucial. No organization exists independently from others. It is good to connect with other community organizations, learn from each other, support each other, and assist each other in doing the important work you all do. And then finally, the tip of the pyramid, programs. We can't get programs done without all of the other components and pieces of the pyramid. We need volunteers. We need community support, good communication, funding, and the list goes on and on. So hopefully this model makes sense and it helps us all understand how and where we might need to focus as we're building our organizational capacity. Eric, can you tell us why this is important and what it might mean from a financial viewpoint?
Yeah, just taking a look at some of the numbers and trying to figure out, like, what are we working on when we're working on lake stuff. We're trying to protect and restore lakes all across Wisconsin. If we only had a couple of lakes, that would be easy. Wisconsin has thousands of lakes, though, so it's more complicated. And lakes, if they just took care of themselves, that'd be great. We sit back. But it turns out that lakes don't just take care of themselves. They need a lot of work to either restore water quality or prevent invasive species, or maybe to protect water quality or manage invasive species. So here's just one example of sort of thinking about what's at stake or what we work on in terms of lakes. This is just looking at the Yahara watershed in Dane County, the chain of lakes around the city of Madison. And there's been a group working on this for a number of years, decades even, trying to figure out how do we restore water quality. These lakes are oftentimes green in the summertime. They have algal blooms. So their main challenge here is related to phosphorus, or P shown here. And they want to reduce the amount of phosphorus from the watershed coming into the lake on the order of 46,000 pounds. They've figured out how much nutrients they have to reduce. And then they've even gone another step to say, well, where's that reduction going to come from? What do we actually have to do out here on the landscape? And then the important step, what's it going to cost? So they figured out that it's going to cost about $130 million to reach that nutrient goal, which is a lot of money, $7 million a year. Believe it or not, they don't have $7 million a year. Instead, what they're relying on are voluntary activities. And they're also relying on, instead of just tax dollars, they want to see if people would donate money towards these causes and do essentially fundraising to pay for different practices. And even there, all the donor activity, all the volunteer stuff still would roughly add up to about $7 million a year. It's a lot of work, but there's a lot of groups working on this and developing their capacity. If you extrapolate that out just to say the Wisconsin River watershed, which is about the middle, let's say 1/4 of the state of Wisconsin, we also have a nutrient budget or a limitation on phosphorus that we're trying to reach. And here it's about 1 million pounds per year is about our goal of reducing phosphorus. So more than 20 times what they're trying to do in the Yahara watershed. And so that would mean it'd be 20 times $7 million a year. That's a lot of money. I want to say that's too much money, but it is a lot of money. So instead of trying to tax people for this, we're trying to say, well, wait a minute, there's lake organizations up and down the Wisconsin River and across the state of Wisconsin, and they all have some capacity to work on these things. And what we need to do is sort of boost that capacity or grow that capacity over time to tackle these water quality challenges. So we got together, Extension Lakes and the Wisconsin DNR and some other university folks, and we developed sort of a diagram to map this out. And this is what it looks like. This may look overcomplicated, but I want to walk you through a couple of parts of this. This is a mapped out sort of system. So we're trying to take a systems perspective on what's going on with Wisconsin lakes and watersheds. And if you look across the top, everything moves from right to left. We're talking about how watershed land use affects runoff, which affects stream water quality, which affects lake water quality, and then affects people's quality of life. If the lakes are full of algal blooms, you can't swim in them, you can't enjoy them, your quality of life goes down. If your lakes are high quality and good clarity, and you want to go play on them, your quality of life gets better. That relationship between the land use and water quality has been studied for decades intensely in Wisconsin, using maps, using geology, using all sorts of analysis. And that's what these dollar signs indicate, that we've really spent on the order of tens or hundreds of millions of dollars just trying to understand this relationship between the watersheds and water bodies. And we know it pretty well, but we don't necessarily know how to fix it. When we talk about fixing it, that's sort of the lower left-hand quarter of this system, where we're looking at the ability of organizations to build their capacity in small steps and then feed resources into restoration activities that are going to mitigate the problems with runoff. So this comes everywhere from a homeowner putting in a rain garden to a city installing a big stormwater management system to farmers maybe modifying their agricultural practices to keep runoff on the land instead of sending runoff into the streams and into the lakes. all those things we know need to happen. That's what those millions of dollars we were talking about in the previous slide. How are we going to get there without the money is basically building this capacity. So in our discussions with the DNR and others, we kind of came to this agreement that, you know, while we spent millions of dollars studying the landscape, we really haven't spent that much money figuring out the peoplescape, the humans that are doing this work and how they work together. But investments there are probably what we need to do going forward. And so this is why we focus now on organizational capacity development.
Thank you for that. I'm wondering if Dave and Peter can, while looking at this, if you can share examples of how you've used this model or how you see it and why you believe this is important.
Absolutely. So prior to looking at it holistically, we did things independently and without a direction that the association had agreed upon. With the capacity efforts, we are able to ensure that the membership is aligned and working towards specific program goals. So from the membership all the way up through internal functions, external functions, and then getting something done via the programs.
And Dave, I should point out that all capacity building projects may not be immediately successful. You know, there can be cliques in any lake organization that view the process of building and expanding capacity as a threat to the governance and the way that they've been doing things for years and years and years. But if at first you don't succeed, the motto is try again, because the success of an organization is going to have to be built on its long-term goals, and that involves good capacity building for the future.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're right that it takes many years and change is hard. Change is hard, especially if there's been one person or a group of people that have been in kind of working on these issues for years and years, sometimes decades. But what we want to do is we want to prevent that, the burnout of people. We want people to continue their work and take it on and continue the work into the future. So that's what we're really hoping that this capacity development model can help you all do. All right, so right now we're going to dig a little deeper into these 4 components and what some of the actions might be to strengthen these components. So if you're thinking, oh, we really need to work on our membership, what can we do? Or internal functions, yes, we could probably use some help in that area. We'll go through some actions that you can take and explore some ideas. So first, with that membership, the base of the pyramid, all of our organizations need people and other organizations to know that your organization, one, it exists, and then what its mission and goals are, and why they might want to support it. Does your organization have a plan to recruit members or supporters? Do you have different levels of membership? Do you clearly state what the benefits of membership are? And you may want to think about how to engage members. Do they receive just one invitation a year to attend the annual meeting? Or are there ways for people to engage in multiple ways throughout the year? Perhaps social events throughout the summer months or virtual meetings during the winter months. Are they invited to maybe contribute to your newsletter, help with different tasks, volunteer, maybe things that they might not be able to do if they're permanent residents, but that they can still work on wherever it is that they do live permanently. And finally, if you can focus on those positive things happening at the lake, why you love your lake, and really focus on those stories and share the successes that involve others, more people will want to help and be engaged, and that continues to strengthen that support base, that membership base. Dave and Peter, do you have any membership related stories or comments regarding this that you've experienced in your own organizations?
Absolutely. So several years ago, the association was generally a social association. We did lots of once a year meetings with potluck and things like that, and didn't really have a long-term goal set. And we knew that that had to change for the association to be successful, for our lake to stay safe and clean. So we leverage several tools within the organizational capacity pyramid, including the skills gap analysis and the board member job descriptions. Both of those things really helped us understand what does our membership look like and what kind of talents can we get from our membership. That was the skills gap analysis, which was super helpful. And then helping people understand the roles that they might be signing up for or being asked to help with. Those job descriptions for our board members really helped also because it set those expectations up front. If you're the vice president or the president or the secretary or any of the board roles, here are the things that we're going to be asking you to help with.
Dave, I think you hit it right on the button there. And when I think you look at the internal functions, I think one of the key elements that we need to look at is dealing with succession planning and the grooming of potential new board members. So many times it seems that an association or a lake district elects people to positions and they really have no clue of what their job is and what their responsibilities are. They then require on-the-job training, which means that they learn as they go. Which is most certainly not the most effective means of doing things. In the worst case, they find that the job is not what they expected, and then their desire to stay with the program for any number of years diminishes. They leave, and you start the whole process over again. So I think we have to look at this, on a holistic basis, as you mentioned earlier. It's a long-term goal, but it's a very, very important goal that people need to work at in order to have a successful organization, whether it's an association or a lake district.
Yep.
Both
build off of
clearly,
what- Go ahead.
sorry, Eric, I was just going to say they both of them just showed how membership, the base of the pyramid, and the internal functions is clearly related. Knowing your membership, I think, Dave, you were talking about doing that skills gap analysis, that knowing your membership and knowing what you need as an organization and being able to go out and ask your membership, do you have these skills? Can you help us? Clearly, they're related, and you really need to know who your membership is if you have positions or jobs that need to get done. And then that also relates to those position descriptions and being able to share those out to your membership so they know what you need. So this back and forth between membership and internal functions, they're definitely not standalone components. They're really interrelated. Sorry, Eric, go ahead.
No, I think you'll see that there's lines that kind of come up from the bottom all the way through to the programs that you want to carry out or the things you want to do related to the lake. And the membership is, as Sarah just said, that wellspring or the source of a lot of people power as well as membership dues. Sometimes people think about like a lake district like Peter is on. Those are taxpayers. Those are property owners that are both members kind of the lake district, but they also just compulsory need to pay the taxes. However, the idea of a membership survey too, which is something that we focus on, is to send out a questionnaire to all those folks, whether it's all the taxpayers and residents and landowners in the district, whether it's all the members of a lake association, just to find out who are these people? What skills might they bring to the table? You never know when there might be someone who just recently retired out of, say, finance and accounting, and maybe the organization is needing someone to do treasurer duties or to manage the money. Well, you got to find that out from your membership base. You have to ask first, what skills do people have around this lake? And if it was a really small group, if it was a lake that only had 6 properties on it, they probably all know each other. That's easy. However, on many lakes, there's hundreds of people around the lake. And so no one person's going to know what everyone's background is and what their skills are. So as you grow that membership base, as you understand get to know who these people are, they feed then into those internal activities. Who's going to be on the board? Who's going to keep the books? Who's going to do all the things that's needed to keep your organization healthy?
Eric, I think you made some very good points there. I also need to point out that any of these documents, such as position descriptions, are living documents. They are going to change as your needs change, as the program becomes evolutionary. People should not look at these as being absolute. They are guides that can be modified to meet the needs of any association or lake district. It's a starting point to help you on this process. And I think that, as you go on, you're going to find that a lot of them are very effective tools, but you need to modify them for your specific needs.
Yep.
And in case anyone's wondering, we do have sample position descriptions, the sample skills gap analysis on our website, along with other tools. So that is a place to start. And you'll be able to get that link to our website on YouTube. We're spending a lot of time on membership and internal functions because they're so important. That's like, really focusing on those two areas. But we will move on now to the next two components of our model, which is the external relationships and the programmatic capacity. Eric, do you want to tell us a little bit about external relationships?
Yeah, I mean, people might hear the term the Wisconsin Lakes Partnership all the time. And what that is a reflection of the way that we get things done. It's through collaboration and external relations. The DNR, for example, can't manage all these lakes all by itself. It's relying on hundreds of lake districts and lake associations to be effective partners. Those organizations can't do it by themselves. Not only do they tap into DNR resources, whether it's expertise or funding, but they might also work with their county government. They might work with their local municipalities, a town or a village. They're also likely going to be finding that there's professionals who do this work. And so their external relations might be with contractors or other people that help them out. There's skills in terms of developing those relationships. People can develop them over time. They can practice building partnerships. You can start out maybe with low stake collaborations and then learn from those experiences and apply the lessons to future partnerships and future endeavors with other people. So it is something that we hope is also cyclical, that kind of as Peter had just hinted at, it evolves over time. But you have to practice this. What you don't want to find yourself in is a position where the lake organization board feels like they have to do everything all themselves, and that the only way to get it done is to look inwardly. Instead, we'd like you to look externally and start finding who are the good partners out there on the landscape. One example I want to highlight real quick is just land trusts. If you're in a healthy watershed, or even if you're in an impaired watershed, there's probably places on the landscape that you wish could be protected forever, so that they don't be turned into maybe farmland or converted into urban development. If you want to keep them in a natural state, a wetland or a forested area, a land trust can often be a good partner to figure out, well, we may need to purchase that land and own it. Instead, let's put an easement, a conservation easement on that land so that it doesn't get changed in the future in a way that would harm lake water quality. And that's really just one example of external relations.
Yeah, I'd like to share an example. So like was stated before, it's a work in progress, right? And so for the association that I represent, we've been working on building external relationships for a while. And we want to build them with other districts, if there are any, and associations within the county. We've also partnered with the County Forest Service and the Wisconsin DNR that are assigned to the county to help us move our programs forward. Over the past several years, we partnered with a local wildlife organization to improve our fish habitat. We continue to leverage those resources every single year. In fact, every single winter. And this year, now that we have good ice, we can move some of our projects forward.
Thanks, Dave. And that's a good example. And I think another good example is the Citizens Lake Monitoring Network. In Wisconsin, the Citizens Lake Monitoring Network now has over 1,000 volunteers statewide that collect very high quality data and lake monitoring programs to support education and inform lake management associations and districts on the quality of the water, to share successes, to look at the trends of water management and lake management throughout the state. And I think the true value of some of these data observations, is that when you start to look at them, it's not the short-term data that's so valuable, it's the long-term data. It's data that was collected years ago that is now starting to play a role, and we're starting to look at the change that may take effect as a result of climate change and other types of situations that we're running into. And the DNR's Citizen Lake Monitoring Program is not the only one that's out there. There are other opportunities to partner with organizations. Another example would be, for example, partnering with the National Weather Service to collect data on, for example, precipitation and weather events. This type of long-term data, when you pair it together with the other information, becomes incredibly valuable when you start to look at where we're going and what we need to do in the future based on a scientific method rather than kind of as a guessing by gosh, seat of the pants description.
That's great. You both are again showing the connectedness between external relationships and that programmatic capacity. Again, that direct link of those external partners, the relationships you build, the networks that exist, all to get these programs done that will help protect our waters into the future and keep them high quality and improve our quality of life. So these programs that we're talking about, these are hopefully long-lasting, successful programs, and they happen when all those other pieces of the pyramid come together, and that are, provide that strong foundation for the programs that happen. A program doesn't happen with just one person. Hopefully, one person might be the one that kind of helps it along or maybe guides it, but it really does, and we really want to stress that it takes multiple volunteers, committees, the networks you were just talking about, those external relationships to really make these programs successful. It takes planning, organization, lots of communication, and it takes, we talked about the succession planning. It takes people to educate others and make sure that those that are going to take over in the future know what has been done in the past, and so they can continue to carry on these successful programs. You already mentioned a few of the programs, but another one we want to highlight is the Healthy Lakes and Rivers program, and this is an initiative that provides 5 simple and inexpensive best practices that improve habitat and water quality on your shoreline properties. So individuals can do this in coordination with a local partner. Sometimes it's their lake or their river group, association, a district, or sometimes it's their county land and water office. But it really helps to showcase what projects are happening around the lake, celebrate those projects that are happening, those collective efforts, and then also share the information on how others can get involved. So it isn't just a one person can do it, but it really helps to get that word out, share those successes, celebrate so that others want to also do Healthy Lakes and Rivers as well.
Sarah, you're right. And, I don't think we should, limit our programmatic capacity examples to what's on the slide. There are many, many others that we can go into. And I, for example, can mention, that, for example, I think water patrols are a good example of programmatic capacity. Many of these patrol organizations qualify for DNR funding for operational expenses and equipment. They very often require a lot of coordination with local townships and law enforcement agencies and other groups. And when we start to talk about water patrols, we have to remember, too, they're not just about law enforcement. I think that's really a minor project for many water patrols. They're about safety and education, which is a great way of getting information out to people to use our lakes and water resources safely in the future, so that everybody can enjoy them.
Yeah. One program that we utilize and have utilized for several years is the Clean Boats, Clean Water Watercraft Inspection Program. And we've received those grants for several years. We have a small committee that runs our Clean Boats, Clean Water program. The committee works with an external partner that hires our summer Clean Boats, Clean Water employee. Last year, we were awarded a surface water grant to enhance our Clean Boats, Clean Water efforts. This grant was to install a device, an electronic device called the eyelids, which is a 7x24 electronic monitoring device that teams up with our Clean Boats, Clean Water program to make sure that we're able to educate and kind of supervise our boat landing, if you will, for any AIS, invasive aquatic species, that might be entering or leaving the lake.
I think both of these are great examples of, to some degree, programs that do require a healthy amount of capacity underneath them. You won't find a lake organization that has very low capacity, very low organizational capacity, taking on boat patrols and boat safety education. You need to have financial resources to support this. You need to be organized. If you're partnering with law enforcement, they need to have sort of organized points of contact in the organization that they're working with. So those are things that we ask people to kind of build towards and work their way up. And the same thing in terms of like Clean Waters and having people at the landing. That's sort of a entry level activity. The DNR will even just easily cost share that through an application process. But if you want to put technology out there like the eyelid system, you probably need more capacity. You need some people who are really going to step up and assist with monitoring and reviewing video that might be recorded and going out and making sure that that equipment is functioning. Those are long-term commitments. So that's sort of a higher level of capacity. A next level might be, we know that there's some lakes out there that are installing boat wash stations at their landings with maybe hot water pressure washers to clean off boats as they come and go to make sure that those invasive species aren't moving around. Well, again, that takes a lot of capacity to support that, both again financially to put a system like that in place, but then to maintain it and to make sure that it's working, to go out and check on it. So those are good examples of how even at the low level of capacity you can do something, but as you develop more organizational capacity, you can do more.
Great. Okay. Thank you for all of those examples. I will move on to the next slide, which is where we want to highlight some of our resources and help guide you to your next steps. You might just be starting out with this and trying to figure out what is our capacity and where do we go for more information. So these resources are all on our website. Again, they're linked in YouTube. First, we want to make sure that you're aware of our website, which has a dedicated page for capacity. This is where all of the tools live. This is where you can find them for, whether it's your membership, a skills gap analysis for your membership or position descriptions or whatever it may be, those are there. We also want to make sure that you're signed up to receive Lake Tides, our Lake Tides publication, which goes out 3 times a year. We include an article in Lake Tides focused on organizational capacity every issue as well. So that's another really good resource to make sure that you are subscribed to, but also encourage your membership, your friends, your family. It's not just for people that have waterfront property or that live on a lake, but also it's for everyone who uses lakes and values lakes, and which is everyone, right? So everyone should receive Lake Tides. So definitely share that resource with others. Next, we want to make sure that you are familiar with the Lake List directory. This is also linked on our website. This includes the names and contact information for all lake organizations in Wisconsin. We provide this tool so that you can connect with organizations maybe in your county. You want to see what other organizations exist in your county, what lake districts, lake associations, and or some organizations that might be dealing with some of the same issues that you're dealing with. So we encourage you to use this resource, reach out to those that are listed in the lake list, make connections, build those relationships, find out when other meetings are taking place in your county, attend those meetings. So really use this as that networking tool. And then finally, we want to make sure you're also aware of the People of the Lakes publication. This is the guide for Wisconsin lake organizations. You can find information in this guide regarding starting and operating an organization. Where do we even start? You can find information about insurance. There are sample bylaws and so much more information in this guide. And we will be updating this in the near future. So for now, it is the 12th edition posted on our website, but hopefully soon we will have an updated version of it.
So this again is a bit of our experiment here to reach out to more people. We're trying to adapt with the times and make sure that people aren't just forced to read things on web pages or on documents. So thank you for entertaining us by watching this video. We already have next month sort of teed up here. We'd like your feedback though too. So there are going to be links on the YouTube where you're watching this likely that you can get back to us and let us know what sort of topics you want to hear about or learn more about. one of the things that's sort of burning on people's minds might be like electronic communications, specifically emails, and how we're using these both to our advantage and also some of the challenges involved with managing emails. This is going to be an interesting topic. We promise we won't make you read a lot of emails while we're in it, but we'll be kind of thinking through what sort of systems do you need to have in place to effectively use email.
All right. Well, with that, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
Yes, and thank you,
Thanks,
Peter and
everybody.
Dave.
Thank you.
Peter and
Bye-bye.
Dave, for being our supporters.